Hey guys, welcome to the Raw Feed, where I give you unbiased opinions about the entertainment industry. I am your host, Malaysian Quita. Now, let's talk about Naomi Campbell, shall we? This crazy supermodel of the world, right? So, she goes to the Telegraph and she pretty much explains about how there is still racism in the fashion industry. And let me tell you particularly what she said. She says, "I'm not saying that the act of not choosing models of color is racist. We are not calling them racist. We are saying that the act is racist." And she gives a specific example of Phoebe Philo, who is the creative director at Celine. And although she's an awesome person, as Naomi describes, pretty much their accessories are bought by people of color, but they don't have people of color in their show. It's the same thing as the whole Abercrombie and Fitch scandal, where their clothes necessarily, they don't fit everybody. It's only meant for a certain and particular body type. And that's really funny that Naomi Campbell is talking about fashion industry racism when she still perpetuates it. She still wears bikinis. She's a very skinny, tall woman of color. She has bone straight hair. And until I see natural haired models on that runway, until I see plus size models on that runway, until I see the everyday girl on that runway, there's still going to be fashion racism in the industry. I mean, let's just be honest. Sex sells, and people only want to see what is attractive. It's a fantasy. The whole entire fashion industry, to me, and particularly what I'm talking about is the commercial fashion industry, is a fantasy. Nobody who is cognitively smart in their right mind wants to look like a thin-boned railroad track. Nobody. I wouldn't want to look that way. And then secondly, I think that the racism in the fashion industry, it comes in a two-part system. The first part, which I mentioned, is the perpetuation, meaning that if you're going to come out, Naomi Campbell, okay, I'm talking to you, and you're going to talk about fashion racism, then you need to start taking the steps to combat that, such as wearing your hair in a more natural state so that young girls out there can look up to you and say, hey, Naomi Campbell is a role model to me because she kind of has the same hair as I do, or she's doing those things that I'm doing. When you are a superstar model, I think it is hard to compare to common folk. So honestly, you know, that's the first half of it. And then the second half really revolves around the fact that we need to stop selling these images. But then it goes and ties right back into sex sells. So if sex sells and you're trying to be yourself, it's pretty much a no-win, no-win situation. But here is the solution. Number one, the magazines that are already out there, like Essence, like Ebony, like Glamour, and Elle, and Vogue, why don't they get together and make a multicultural spread? I think by supporting multiculturalism, that's when racism in the fashion industry will stop. If we cannot accept transgendered models, if we cannot accept plus size, I mean, the plus size industry, for example, they had to make a separate industry from the straight sizes. So until we have not only cultural and sexual orientation of multiculturalism, and until we have that type of unity and that type of acceptance, we still have a long way to go. So I do commend Naomi Campbell for bringing this topic about, but overall, it does not help when you are a tall, skinny woman. You do not look like half of American women or the average woman out there in the world. We're all different shapes and all different sizes. And honestly, I don't want to hear it from you, Naomi Campbell, because you are not a role model to be talking about fashion industry racism when you are still perpetuating it. Till I see you kind of trying to represent women like myself and women who we may not necessarily, and men as well, we may not necessarily have those supermodel looks, but you are encouraging us to get into the industry. I don't see a lot of supermodels do that, especially Janice Dickinson. I mean, her show, the whole purpose of her show was to criticize people who didn't fit that body form that she has, and Victoria's Secret and all these companies, until I start seeing, once again, sexual acceptance as well as multicultural acceptance, and those two come together. That is the only way that racism will go bye-bye. So what do you think about Naomi Campbell and the whole fashion racism acceptance thing? Please contact me and let me know. I'm going to continue doing these raw feeds as long as you want me to do them. And you can contact me at cintvnow@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember to get smart and stay informed.